I want to thank you so much for joining us here on the Sports Cubicle. It's Dan Marver, it's Devin Tingle, it's Paul Chivari, and myself, Mike Mercado, on this 4th of July weekend. Marvelous one on location this holiday weekend. Still had enough time to see all the craziness that's happening in college football, and of course, over at the Advocate Center as the NBA free agency season has gone wild. Marvelous one. Happy 4th of July weekend, buddy. How are you?
Same to you. I'm speaking to you from beautiful Indiana.
The great Hoosier States, one of the teams that will be facing the new additions to the Big Ten. That is right. If you were sleeping under the rock or just enjoying a bunch of barbecue and fireworks, UCLA, USC have joined the Big Ten. Marvelous one. You are somebody who has always adored collegiate sports. It's been a sport on all different avenues and all the different levels and all the different divisions and all the different sports, for that matter, of how it's changing. And right now, we have officially learned there is no hiding anymore. There are two power conferences in college football. That is the SEC and the Big Ten. The USC Trojans, the UCLA, the Bruins, the Golden Bears, they're coming to the Midwest. They're coming to the Big Ten. And when you see this, for me personally, just to kind of give you a base, I've never been the biggest college football fan. I always thought it was a little bit of a scummy game, the way these guys were giving up their bodies. And yeah, they were getting education, but when these coaches are the highest paid people in the institute, you knew something was a little amongst. But now we're seeing it's all about the money for everybody. And for me, if you're telling me that college football is not going to be NFL football on Saturdays, I'm here for it. But you, Marvelous, somebody, a scout, coach who's seen it all, your thoughts when you see these two California teams coming to the Big Ten?
Obviously, football drives everything, and they're probably going to have two divisions with Illinois and Northwestern joining Nebraska, Wisconsin, Iowa, Minnesota, and the two Cal schools, or something like that, because it would be insane to have, the other sports all included, as they will be, having midweek games cross country. So that was my first reaction. And I wonder what's going to happen to Arizona State, Washington, Oregon, and the others now, not to mention Colorado and Utah, who probably are sorry they joined that conference. Now, Utah should go join BYU now in the Big 12 and have a rivalry.
So let me ask you this, Marvelous. I mean, my notion of what I think college football should become. You have the NIL, you have all these billion-dollar deals going on a year for these TV deals for these different networks. And I believe that if you're being honest with ourselves, right, and we're saying a lot of these kids, a lot of these young men who are going to Big Ten schools like Ohio State, going to LSU, yeah, a lot of them are going to get degrees. A lot of them are going to be awesome, everyday working citizens in our nation. But a lot of these guys are going to the school to become professional athletes. And I think if we're honest with ourselves and we're able to nurture that, right, and teach these athletes proper money management, how to be adults in the real world when you're making millions upon millions of dollars, I kind of find it fascinating. And, the heck with the NCAA and all the boards and everything, just strictly looking at the people, the families, the people behind this. I am all for the big schools, the big ones, the money generating schools being able to really make their own league. Are you going to be invested in a college football that's much more like the NFL than, let's say, when Notre Dame and Miami and these teams were dominating in the 80s?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, there's going to be no more independence. I wonder what happens with Notre Dame now. I mean, are they going to be fully ACC for football? They're probably going to have to do something with a conference now, and maybe it will be the Big Ten. Who knows?
Do you think this is the way college football has always kind of been destined to go down? Because I always feel like when the worms got out of the can, right? When the cat was out of the bag, that this was inevitable, that we were going to see that they realized that the NCAA didn't have much power and that the power really is in the boosters and these huge institutes. So now that we're at this point, are you more excited for the idea of like expanded playoffs, and not just expanded playoffs, but really being in a point now where the top tier college football programs are going to all be kind of on even footing now? It's not just going to be Alabama that's able to get all the recruits. Miami's now in this. Ohio State, Michigan, they're getting these California teams. Do you think we're going to see a more honest national champion moving forward, or for at least a foreseeable future?
Yeah, well, I'm kind of a traditionalist. I like the old Rose Bowl with USC versus Michigan instead of it being a regular season game now, but or Ohio State. But I mean, I just don't see, unless they expand the number of teams in the college football playoff, how you're going to have this, because now you're going to have, obviously multiple teams from SEC and Big Ten probably being in the playoff system, and they'll be playing each other during the year. And with all these teams in a conference, obviously teams from the same conference won't even play each other. So it seems a little muddled to me, but I hope it works out for the best. I just don't think that it's overall, it doesn't really thrill me, to be honest with you.
Okay, so going down that road for just a few more moments, and you're here on the Sports Cubicle on WCPT 820 AM, and you want to see the video version of the podcast or any previous show, make sure you're checking us out on YouTube at Mercado Airwaves Network. It's Dan Marver and myself, Mike Mercado. Of course, Devin Tingle and Paul Chivari will be joining us throughout the entire show. Do you think this does have the opportunity, though? Let's say in the next 5-10 years, if these boosters, if these college presidents, if these coaches are all able to work with each other, which is a big if, that we might be seeing a new golden age? Is there a road that, even though that there's a road where this obviously doesn't work, but is there a road where this actually ends up being the best of scenarios and a little bit more of a actual league than before? Is there a possibility for that over the next decade?
Well, ultimately, what you might be having is a playoff system and a conference pretty much determining the national champion. With all these teams, if you have 20 teams in a conference, I mean, you'll maybe have a playoff system within a conference to determine a representative to a championship series, because that's going to be the only way to handle it, because you're not going to be able to compare apples to apples because they won't be playing the same teams, within a massive conference. So they'll have to have maybe a conference playoff system feeding into a college football playoff, in my view.
It's going to be fascinating, marvelous one. College sports is changing every single day. The way we cover sports is changing every single day. And the way that we're going to now be scouting and previewing these games is completely different, because there's going to be a time where U of I is going to Southern California. There's going to be a time where UCLA is coming to Northwestern. Who knows how crazy it's going to be at the big house when you see USC, the Trojans, heading to Michigan, or what happens when the Buckeyes get to host the Trojans. Like, this is going to be, while it loses some of the mystique of the traditional from what was the last 40, 50, 60, 70 years of a lot of these different matchups, there is something in my final thoughts of this craziness that we'll be covering until it actually happens in 2024, is a new generation of fan and student is going to come from this. They're going to be kids in Southern California, which I don't know why they would choose this during the second semester, but are going to want to go to Big Ten schools, and vice versa. Big Ten schools are going to want to go to Southern California. And in a world where everybody gets to watch everybody's games now, I think it's just such a smaller world that if you're smart, and that's a big if with the people who are in charge of this, if you're smart, you can make this work. You are the second most popular sport in our country, behind the pros in the National Football League, and then right above international soccer. You are beating baseball. NBA is right there, but I think college football, SEC football in particular, beats NBA when it comes to viewership. So this is your chance, college football. Make things right. Work with these student athletes. Work with these schools. Work with these towns. And give a good product that is both fair for the institutes and for the athletes and enjoyable for the fans. But we want to know your thoughts. Let us know. We're on Twitter at Sports Cubicle TV. USC UCLA heading to the Big Ten. Do you like it? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Let us know. We're all over the universe.